What's going on, sports fans? Welcome to this episode of BG Pick'ems, and this is week 2. Let's get into it. All right, guys, again, welcome back to this episode of BG Pick'ems, and we are doing my picks of the week. And so we have week 2 slated right here. And we are going to start with the Thursday night game, which is the Washington Commanders going into Green Bay to play the Packers. This ESPN Bet has this at a 3.5 point spread and a 48.5 point total. With this game, Green Bay looked really good. Washington looked to start a little slow against the Giants last week, but ultimately did get the win. Me personally, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers here. I think they are going to continue to fire on all cylinders, and I really do think that as they continue and Micah Parsons plays a little bit more and more, he's going to make the defense that much better. So give me Green Bay. Next game up we have is the Jacksonville Jaguars going into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. ESPN Bets has this at a 3.5 point Cincinnati favorite and a 48.5 point total. Sounds very similar, but Cincinnati is notorious for starting slow in September, and even though they won last week, they only won by 1. They played the Browns, though I will say that their defense looks better. Again, they were playing the Browns, but their defense looks better. Their defense gave up a lot of points last week. The Jags probably aren't much better than the Browns, but they are technically better, and they are coming off a win as well. But again, they played the Panthers, who are not... they're barely an NFL team at this point. I could see the Bengals struggling against the Jaguars, so I'm going to go ahead and take Jacksonville to win this game. Next game up we have is the Los Angeles Rams going into Tennessee to play the Titans, and this game has the Rams at a 5.5 point favorite and a 41.5 point total. The Rams looked really good. Congratulations to Matthew Stafford on passing over 60,000 yards in his career. Tennessee looked good in the sense of Cam Ward looked good. I feel like he was making the right reads. He was getting the ball, and he was getting the ball out quick. It's just that the receivers just couldn't catch the ball, and that hurts. That definitely hurts. Now this doesn't mean go dropping Calvin Ridley in your fantasy league because he dropped some balls. No, it just means that there's some growing pains, and it's something that they're going to have to work through. But I think the Rams are the better team here. They seem more cohesive. Don't be surprised if the Rams are the NFC West title holders, especially when you give Matthew Stafford targets like Devontae Adams and obviously Puka Nacua, who's been there since the beginning of his career. But I'm going to take the Rams in this one. All right, next game up we have is the New England Patriots going into Miami to play the Dolphins. ESPN Bet has this at a 1.5 point favorite for Miami and a 42.5 point spread, or 42.5 point total. Dolphins took a beating last week from the Indianapolis Colts, a team that many probably thought that they would struggle because of the quarterback controversy. Tua just did not look good at all. Tyreek Hill, that is probably jabbering on about wanting to be traded, and he probably really misses Kansas City, but Miami just doesn't look great. And as for the Patriots, they did lose also. They lost to the Raiders last week, but they played a fairly decent game. I know there's a lot of weather involvement in that game. I think Drake May can find his footing, and be able to take that next step and take down the Dolphins. And I do think the Dolphins will lose this game as well. Even though it's at home, there may be some at-home factor to this. But I think the Patriots the Patriots aren't as good on paper, but I feel like, you know what? I think I might switch. I think this might be a bounce-back game for Tua since they are playing at home. I'm going to take Miami to win this game. As bad as they played last week, I think they can recover. So give me the Dolphins to win this game. All right, next game up is Buffalo Bills going into the Meadowlands to play the New York Jets. ESPN Bets has opened this up at a 6.5 point favorite for the Buffalo Bills, a 46.5 point total. The Jets looked really good last week. Justin Fields looks like he's fitting into that New York Jets offense beautifully. Just barely come up short against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers did have a phenomenal day. But I feel like, Justin Fields was able to match that pretty well. So I think things are looking up for the Jets. Now, I don't want to speak too soon, but they're looking up. As for the Bills, slow start in the first 3 quarters for the Bills, which is going to sound a lot like another team that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But MVP Josh Allen is going to do MVP Josh Allen things, and the Bills defense was able to, get stops and create turnovers, and ultimately put the ball in the hands of their playmaker, and that was Josh Allen. And so he got things done and was able to rely on the leg of a 41-year-old Matt Prater to kick the game-winning field goal against the Baltimore Ravens last week. Very dramatic style for a Sunday night football game, which is what we all love. I think this game can be closer than some may think. I think this will be closer than the 6.5 points that ESPN has this at. I am going to take Buffalo, but I'm going to take Buffalo by 3. I think this will be a lot closer than people may anticipate. So give me Buffalo. All right, next game up we have is the Browns going into Baltimore to play the Ravens. Again, the Ravens coming off of a very tough loss against Buffalo. Lamar Jackson looked great. He played great, rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry played phenomenal. He did have the one fumble that was very costly. Ultimately, he did play very well. The Browns coming off of a loss, but with that being said, at the same time, the Browns looked good. ESPN opens this up at a 11.5 point Baltimore favorite and a 44.5 total points. If you look at the history of the Ravens and the Browns over the last 5 years, just back from 2020, only in that 2020 season did the Ravens sweep the Cleveland Browns. Every other year since then, it's been a split. It's been a 1-1 split. Now, there have been some very close games, within one possession, and there's been a couple of blowouts, but for the most part, there's been a 1-1 split in those in this series since 2020. So I would anticipate that this could be a close game. So it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be a close game or it's going to be a blowout. And now you can say that about any game, but there's no in between, right? So what would BG? What would you constitute as a blowout versus a close game? So a close game is obviously anything that's within one possession. So anything that's in between 1 to 8 points, right? I would consider that a close game. A blowout, I would consider anything that is more than 14 points. In that middle land is where you find it wasn't a blowout, but it wasn't close either. So that's kind of my description of a close game and a blowout. So back to this game. This game I would consider to be one of those two things, and I'm going to take the Ravens. I can't see the Ravens starting 0-2, especially after coming off of a loss of the way that they did. So give me the Baltimore Ravens. All right, next up we got is the New York Giants going into Dallas to play the Cowboys. ESPN opens this up as a Dallas 5.5 point favorite with a total of 44.5 points. So this game is going to be very dependent on what the Giants do at quarterback. Now, from what people say, Russell Wilson is going to continue to start rather than turning to the rookie or even turning to Jameis Winston. I think that is the right decision for right now. If you watch the Big Sexies episode, I am with him. I cannot pick the Giants until they show me something worth picking them for. The Cowboys looked too good against the Eagles last week to not pick them against a Giants team. Dak played very well. The Eagles were just a little too much. Maybe it was the rain delay in Philadelphia last week because Dallas got off to a hot start, and then all of a sudden this rain delay, and then nothing from either team. So, but give me the Cowboys at home. Their defense still looks pretty good even without Micah Parsons. Now, I'm not saying that it will continue to look good. I think there will be struggles in that defense. I think the way that the Giants can attack this team is if they run the ball. But give me Dallas to win this game. All right, next game up we have is the Chicago Bears going into Detroit to play the Lions. ESPN has this at a 6.5 point favorite for the Lions and a 46.5 point total. Both of these teams coming off of very tough losses. The Lions just don't look the same, right? It doesn't seem to look like they have that same fire that they had last year. Again, they got new DC, new OC. It's very tough for Dan Campbell right now. On the flip side of that, their old offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who is now in Chicago, had all cylinders firing against Minnesota early on that Monday night game. And I think they can continue and build on that. I mean, unfortunately, one of these teams does have to go 0-2. And I think the team that will be going 0-2 is going to be the Lions, unfortunately. I think the Bears can win this game. It's going to be tough. The only reason that's going to be tough is because it's going to be on the road. But the Bears defense held up. They just fell apart at the end. They just need to make sure that they can continue to apply, that pressure and close out the game. But I'm going to take Chicago in this game to win. All right, next game up that we got is the San Francisco 49ers going into New Orleans to play the Saints. ESPN opens this at a 3.5 point favorite for San Francisco and a 40.5 point total. San Francisco going to be dealing with a lot of injuries. George Kittle's going to be out. Juwan Jennings is, I believe, going to be out. Obviously, they're missing Brandon Ayuk. They just signed, I can't remember, they just signed somebody this week. And then they also, Brock Purdy is questionable. They get rid of Jake Moody and they bring in Eddie Pinheiro. So a lot of moving parts in San Francisco. Now, they did win last week against Seattle, but at what cost? And the Saints lost, and that's probably due to just being the Saints. Like, this game is going to be closer because it's probably going to be garbage. I would not be surprised. The only reason that the San Francisco 49ers would win is because of the defense that they kind of have. Like, I want to pick the 49ers because I don't think the Saints can. I don't want the Saints to win just for the sake of the NFC South. But you know what? I think this is going to be my upset. I think the Saints are going to beat the 49ers just because of all the injuries to San Francisco. So give me the Saints. All right, next game up we have is the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. This ESPN opens this up at a 3.5 point favorite for the Steelers and a 39.5 point total. Seattle, Sam Darnold looked okay, I guess. Pittsburgh obviously looked really good. Aaron Rodgers looking like Green Bay Aaron Rodgers out there slinging the ball. It's going to be tough for Seattle to travel across time zones and come over to the East Coast. But I think Pittsburgh wins this game. I think Seattle's going to take a minute to get their stuff together. That's just the truth of it. The Steelers, they have good coaching. They have good players. I just think they're a more complete and better team than Seattle. So give me the Steelers to win this game. All right, next game up we have is the Denver Broncos going into Indianapolis to play the Colts. This opens up, ESPN opens this up as a 1.5 point favorite for the Broncos and a 42.5 point total. Two teams that had completely different wins last week. So the Colts were led by Daniel Jones, who obviously turned into Peyton Manning in honor of Jim Irsay. And, the Colts scored on 7 out of 7 possessions, which is, I believe, never been done. And then you have the Broncos who won, but they struggled. They couldn't get the pass game going very well. Bo Nix was struggling. I believe he had 2 interceptions or 1 interception. So they relied heavy on their run game between J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. And I think that'll probably be the same this week. Bo Nix has got to find his rhythm here. The Colts are going to be playing a lot better of a defense with Denver. So don't expect them to blow them out. I think this can be a good game. This could be an either or if the right Bo Nix shows up. But as of right now, I'm going to take the Colts. I think they have the home field advantage. They're going to be playing with some passion. So give me the Colts to win this game. All right, next game up we have is the Carolina Panthers going into Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Panthers, like I said, they should be relegated. They're not even really an NFL team at this point anymore. ESPN opens this up at a 6.5 point favor for Arizona and a 43.5 point total. Arizona's going to win this game. Let's just put it that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of something good to say about Carolina, and I can't think of anything at this point. So Arizona's going to win this game. Carolina just needs to figure their crap out. Maybe they try and bench Bryce Young again. I mean, it worked for him last year. They benched him, brought him back in, and he did a lot better. But as of right now, there's no saving Carolina. There's no saving them. So give me the Cardinals to win this game. All right, next game up we have is the Super Bowl rematch of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. This game will be played in Arrowhead. They are opening up Philly as a 1.5 point favorite and a 46.5 point total. I agree with Big Sexy. Big Sexy said that it's hard to see the Chiefs go 0-2. Especially as good as they've been in just these recent years. Philadelphia played really well, and against Dallas. My wife doesn't seem to think so. She thought that they played like crap, but I mean, they definitely played slower than what I had seen. I mean, obviously Devontae Smith didn't have the game that he normally does. AJ Brown didn't have the game that he normally does, but that's almost to be expected in week 1. So it's tough. It's tough. It is hard to see a Chiefs team go 0-2 with as good as they've been, but you know what? It's going to happen. Philly's going to start 2-0. Philadelphia is going to win this game. I think they're just still very dominant, and there's injuries and suspensions that are going to riddle the Chiefs with the Rashid Rice and the Xavier Worthy being out. So give me Philadelphia to win this game. All right, next game up we have is the Sunday night game, which is the Falcons going into Minnesota to play the Vikings. Minnesota opens up as a 3.5 point favorite with a 44.5 point total. Both of these teams, well, let me put it this way. Atlanta looked really good the whole game against Tampa. Michael Penix Jr. looked really good. He's really, turning into a really good quarterback. He's seeing the game very well. So he's playing well. Bijan looked great. I mean, maybe it was just our defense, but Bijan looked great. Drake London had a couple catches. Kyle Pitts had a couple catches. So they're getting there. They just need to fix their kicking situation, obviously. The Vikings were asleep for 3 quarters, and J.J. McCarthy did his best Josh Allen impression by throwing 2 touchdowns and running in for 1 to beat the Bears on Monday Night Football last week. So he gets to play in front of the home crowd. I think home field advantage is big in this one. The Vikings, if they can continue the success of how they were in that 4th quarter and play that way to start this game, it's going to be a very long day for Michael Penix Jr. But if they start off slow again, the Falcons are going to pick them apart. I truly believe that. But give me the Vikings to win this game at home. All right, next game up we have is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Houston to play the Houston Texans. And this is the first of 2 Monday Night Football games. Houston opens up as a 2.5 point favorite, and there is a 42.5 point total for this game. So if you remember CJ Stroud's rookie year, we played them in Houston, and it was like a 35-38 game. We left like 40 seconds left on the clock, and CJ Stroud just drove the ball down and threw a game-winning touchdown to Tank Dell, I believe is who it was. But I haven't seen that same CJ Stroud again. We didn't see him last year. We didn't see him the first week. They didn't even throw a touchdown in week 1. They are struggling, and I think they will continue to struggle, and I think Tampa needs to take advantage of that. So I am looking for Tampa to win this game. I know in my prediction videos of the schedule, I said that we would lose this game against Houston, but that was off of the thought that CJ Stroud would come out looking better, fitting back into almost somewhat of his rookie shoes, and it just did not look like it. I'm going to take Tampa to win this game. I think the way that we looked against the Falcons, we looked a little slow, but Egbuka is going to have a great season. Like, he is already candidate for Rookie of the Year. So he's going to have a great season this year if he continues to play the way that he did. So give me Tampa Bay. All right, and finally, to wrap up our games, we have the Los Angeles Chargers going into Vegas to play the Raiders. This game opens up as the Chargers in a 3.5 point favorite with a 46.5 point total. Chargers look great against the Chiefs. They were firing on all cylinders. Defense looked good. Offense looked good. Maybe it was because they were in Sao Paulo, Brazil, but we'll see. So they come back to Vegas. Vegas looked good. They were playing the Patriots, slow game. I think it was like a 20-13 win. Pete Carroll, Geno Smith obviously have their connection. This game I feel like is going to be very dependent on how they can get Ashton Genty involved more than the 2 carries for like 38 yards or whatever he had in week 1, and if Brock Bowers comes back, because Brock Bowers was a big part of why the Raiders were playing so well. So those are the 2 considerations, but I see the Chargers winning this game. I think they win by more than that 3.5 points that they're given. But I could expect this to be an over 46.5 point total. So give me the Chargers here. All right, guys, that does it for this episode of KFR Sportscast and BG's Picks of the Week. So thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you follow us at KFR SPRTScast on all of our social medias and to stay up to date with all of the latest episodes that come out. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching these videos. Make sure that you give it a lot of love. If you agree with my picks or disagree with my picks, make sure you drop it in the comments below. But other than that, thank you. I'll see you next time. And until then, peace out.